We have to mute our speakers. Yeah.
Okay, councillors, if we make a start. Evening all, I'm Councillor Paul Wilby, I'm the Chairman of the Planning Committee, and I'm pleased to welcome you to this meeting. Echo again, are we? No, okay. There we are. I'm pleased to welcome you to this meeting of the committee. May I take this opportunity to advise you that if the fire alarm... Yeah. Hopefully, that's better-ish. Okay, may I take this opportunity to advise you that if there is a fire alarm, please remain seated and the members of the Democratic Service Team will assess the situation and give further instruction on the evacuation of the building if necessary. Tonight's proceedings will be webcast by the council, but if anyone else intends to record these proceedings, can you please let me know now? No one's indicated. I ask this question not to stop you, but merely to ensure that members of the public in the room know that this is taking place. I'd also like to advise members that they should only address the meeting by the way of the microphones and remind them to turn their microphones off when they've finished speaking. Thank you. Moving on then, apologies for absence. I've got apologies from Councillor Jeffries and Councillor Spooner and Dan Wilkinson. Do I have any substitutes?
Councillor Springett for Councillor Spooner.
Councillor Greenan for Councillor Stephen Thompson.
Thank you. We haven't got any visiting members, I can see, so we'll move straight on then. Move on to item 4, items withdrawn from the agenda. I believe we have one item withdrawn.
That's what we're recommending, yeah. It's to get further scrutiny of ecological considerations. There's potential for protected species on site. And we've asked KCC Ecology to do an actual site visit as opposed to a desktop response. Thank you.
Okay, so is that agreed to withdraw that item? Thank you, councillors. Okay, I'm hoping we shouldn't need to use the adjourned meeting, but if so, there is one, and that'll be on the 21st of November. Urgent items. So we have got one urgent item. Has that been distributed to all councillors or just to myself? On item 6. Yeah.
So I have an urgent update to be delivered in respect to item 15 at Jubilee Playing Fields. A late consultation response has been received from the Upper Medway Internal Drainage Board, which questions the viability of disposing of surface water via infiltration, and it therefore recommends that the ground investigation is carried out to determine the infiltration potential. Should this not be feasible, then the surface water should be discharged to a watercourse. Officers propose to deal with this matter by way of pre-commencement condition under delegated powers.
Okay, thank you. Moving on then. Is that agreed to take that urgent item? Thank you.
Chairman, there's also an urgent item on the appeals list because the description on the first one was incorrect. So the update corrects that description.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 7, are there any disclosures by members and officers? Councillor Reardon.
Thank you, Chair. Item 15, just to say I'm a member of Staples Parish Council, but I'm not on the planning committee, and I intend to speak and vote on the matter with an open mind. Thank you.
No one else? Okay, moving on then. Any items, item 8, disclosures of lobbying. Again, I'll start on my left and I'll just work my way around, we get back.
Yes, Chairman, item 15.
Thank you, Paddy. Hold.
Thank you, Chairman. I was spoken to about item 16, but it's been withdrawn, so I don't know if we still note that or do next time. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson? No. Nobody else? No? Okay. I think 16 as well. Okay, moving on then. Got to just realise that you've been clockwise. I've gone Andy. Okay, items 9. To consider whether to take any items privately, I move that these items on the agenda be taken as public as proposed. Is that agreed? Thank you. Item 10, I move the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of September 2024 adjourned to 2026 December be approved as per the correct record and signed. Is that agreed? Thank you. Moving on to item 11, I move that the minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of October 2024 be approved as a correct record and signed. Is that agreed? Okay. With that pen rather than purple. Right. Moving on to item 12, there is no petitions this evening. We shall move on to item 14, where I call upon Mr. Fletcher to introduce the report, please.
Thank you. So the application tonight is in Laddingford on the western side of Emmett Hill Lane. The application seeks retrospective permission for the change of use of agricultural land for a dog walking paddock, along with the fencing, area of hard standing for car parking, and the access track. The application would be establishing a new business in the countryside, which is not covered by any exception policies to SB 9, and as such, it's being brought to the committee tonight as a departure from the local plan. So the development is basically a field where dogs are exercised in a supervised environment. The officer report identifies some minor harm from the car parking and the access arrangements, but it's still located as well as it can be on site, and the harm is minimal. It's certainly not in the order of significant, which would warrant refusal. We've imposed conditions requiring the applicant to submit additional landscaping details, as well as details relating to the management of noise and waste on site. Subject to conditions, the application is recommended for approval as per the officer report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Will. Anyone wish to speak on this item?
I just had a question because we did have a similar application when I was at a meeting a couple of months ago. In the parking area, it said there was sufficient parking for 3 cars. But obviously people book time slots, I understand from this, and you could have 2 cars book in the same time slot and then another 2 cars arrive in for the subsequent time slot. So you could potentially have 4 cars there at any one time. And I think this has come up before with something similar.
Okay, Will. Well, gone. Do you need a minute? Okay. Any other questions? We're waiting. No. Okay. Pressure is on then, Will.
I mean, there is an appointment system for arranging the site. I mean, it's one of the benefits of that is that the visits to the site can be managed by the applicant, so that avoids, hopefully, would avoid that situation from occurring.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay. Well, if no one else wishes to speak on it, I'm going to propose it as per the papers. To have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Springett. All those in favour? Is unanimous? Oh, no. Yes. So, yeah. Okay. Okay, and that's passed. Okay, the next item is a starred item. Does anyone wish to speak on this? No? Okay, I'm going to propose as per the papers then. For the seconder. Thank you, councillor Springett. All those in favour? Rest again.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's passed. Okay. Item 15, member has indicated that he does want this introduced. So I call upon Sean Scott to introduce the item, please. Okay, Sean, just while we're waiting, just for the members of the public, that is approved. So, okay, so yeah. Okay, Sean.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application for full planning permission at Jubilee Playing Field in Staplehurst 4. The erection of a clubhouse with decking area, a 50-person covered seating stand, and a 50-person covered standing area. In addition, the repositioning of an existing 50-person covered standing area and a ticket booth. So here's the site location plan. The site is located approximately 55 metres to the east of the village of Staplehurst, and it's within the countryside. The proposal would be located within the existing football ground, which is occupied by Staplehurst Monarchs Football Club. So this photo shows the front of the site. This is obscured. This is obscured by an existing community building and the Kathy Lamb Girl Guides Centre. The ticket booth shown, the red ticket booth here would be moved to the rear of these buildings. This photo is looking west with the existing seating stand and covered standing area. Note that the existing 50-person covered seated stand will remain in situ. Here's a closer view of those. And this is the site looking north. This is the proposed site layout. And here is the proposed clubhouse building, which includes a decking area. And then over here is a new covered seating stand to be located to the north of the existing seating stand. And behind the goal to the south are the repositioned and new covered standing areas. And just by the entrance here is the repositioned ticket booth. And then here are some elevation drawings. The key things to note here are that all elevations of the proposed buildings and structures, notably the clubhouse building is proposed to be timber clad with a decked area. Finer details are to be secured by way of planning conditions recommended at the end of the committee report. And the proposed stands are identical to the existing stands in terms of their design and finish. As set out in the committee report, officers have recommended the proposal for approval subject to the conditions, including the conditions set out in the urgent update and the prior completion of a legal agreement. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, John. Right, Councillor Reardon. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry. Actually, have a speaker. Sorry, I didn't realise that. Mr. Stonebridge for the applicant.
My name is Nick Stonebridge. I am the Chair, Club Welfare Officer and League Welfare Officer of the Staplehurst Monarchs Football Club. We have submitted our planning application for two reasons. The first is to ensure that should our first team gain promotion to the next division, we are ready to meet the ground grading guidelines set by the FA. These guidelines apply to all clubs in the non-league system, irrespective of your supporter numbers. The second is to move our food and drink provision from outside of the ground to pitch side to better serve and protect supporters we already have. None of the application is submitted to increase footfall to the facility. The Jubilee Sports Ground, as it is officially known, has been home to the club since 2009, when the Nigel Best Pavilion was built, and the club has invested much time and money in making the facility what it is today. The main concerns regarding our applications surround parking. A recent transport survey undertaken at the ground showed that a standard attendance for a Wednesday night development game match uses 63 of the car parking spaces, leaving 19 free, and a Saturday first team game uses 78 spaces, leaving 4 free. We understand that there may sometimes be higher attendance, and we try and mitigate this by encouraging car sharing, as well as advertising that there is limited parking at the ground and encouraging local people to walk. And we are currently looking at an incentive programme for those that walk to the ground. Since we formed our community interest company, all our junior players receive free entry to games, and this means many of our spectators are actually junior players who don't drive. We aided the parking at the ground 2 years ago by securing funding from a local sponsor and a grant from Councillor Parfitt Reid, which resurfaced the overflow car park to ensure that a further 40 spaces are usable all year round. Our average attendance this season for first team games is 92 people. We are hoping to achieve promotion to the Premier Division, and we've looked at our closest local Premier Division team, Bearsted, who have an average attendance of 113, which is not a huge increase from our average. Whilst we hope that the local community will continue to support us, we anticipate any growth to be gradual. The application we have submitted is not designed to increase the spectators, but to provide more covered accommodation for those who are already supporting the club, as required by the FA, to enhance the spectators' experience by allowing them to purchase food and drink pitch side rather than outside of the ground, meaning they won't miss any of the match, and improve health and safety by keeping spectators contained within the ground and mean less movement with hot drinks. The clubhouse would also provide a meeting point outside of match times for local people, but we don't anticipate any issues with parking. For example, a local mother and baby group meet on site at the Cathy Lamb Centre, and we would then be able to offer them snacks and drinks instead of them having to drive elsewhere out of the village. We're committed to working with the local community to ensure that the facility is available for all for the future. Staplehurst Monarchs recently celebrated our 130th anniversary, and making these improvements will ensure that the club can continue into the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Your turn, Paddy.
Thank you, Chair. I'm minded to vote for approval on this matter to try and support the local club. However, there are several issues that I think it's very, very important we deal with at this point. So whether they're conditioned and whether my associates take them in consideration. First of all, the parking is a big issue. There's 27 parking spaces. There's six parking spaces set aside for the guides. There's 7 set aside for skate park use, and there's an overflow car park which is not actually past planning permission as yet, but it's being used, and there's approximately 20 there. This is consistently over capacity when the senior football club use it. Staplehurst Parish Council carried out a professional car park survey, and it clearly states it's over capacity and the overspill area was over capacity. So that's a concern, and I think Kent Highways raised it, but they didn't press on it because they were advised that it wouldn't increase spectators attending it. However, if the football club do go up a division, which is their goal and which is why they're applying for this planning permission, the average attendances for Whitstable Town is 438, Faversham Town is 348, and I can go down the list. That's the average crowd. So you could expect a significant increase. Staplehurst last year, I believe the average was 115, which is significantly higher than what was mentioned at the previous planning application 4 or 5 years ago. So therefore, I think traffic management is without doubt a big problem. I think Staplehurst Parish Clerk, or I know Staplehurst Parish Clerk sent through photos to the planning officers showing parking along the Headcorn Road. Headcorn Road is a very busy road, and we've got the speed indicator device data, and you won't be surprised to find out the average speed on that road is in excess of the speed limit. And quite often vehicles are tracked at double the speed limit along there. So it is a dangerous road and it does need management. Problem is, like a lot of situations we find ourselves in, particularly with schools, is people aren't actually breaking the law by parking there, but it causes significant problems for local residents. So I think unless the traffic management is dealt with properly, all we're doing is adding a significant problem. Maidstone enforcement officers won't be able to call out there twice a week, especially when people are just parked in a local estate or the main road. The other 2 points which are planning issues outside of the parking is obviously they're adding stands to a public open space. Most of the club, or virtually, well, I believe all the clubs in this league own their own ground, such as Bearsted. So they can operate in a different way. This is public open space. It's the only open space that Staplehurst Parish Council own, which is paid for by our residents. So it's very important to take that into account. The football club get provided it. They pay for it when they're using it 3 or 4 times a week at very preferential rates. The area they wish to put the clubhouse on, and I fully, as a football person, I fully understand the club wanting a clubhouse. The 2 local buildings there, which is the Pavilion and the Guide Hut, both have been selling alcohol and are allowed to sell alcohol from there. So I do feel it's a bit over intensification, having 3 different buildings all selling alcohol at various times. And the other thing which I think may be over intensification, well, I believe it is public open space being covered up by concrete and football stands. I'm sure a lot of our councillors can understand if it happened at Pennenden Heath or South Park. So it is a concern. What I would like to see, if we're minded to approve, is first of all to ensure a transport plan, a detailed transport plan is provided and provided before any building takes place. And the second thing, it doesn't show it on the drawings we've got or the pictures we've got. This particular field pitch is fenced off, and I think to protect the local amenity, what is the double gates supplying the pitch for ambulance access should be locked open at all times the pitch isn't used. So perhaps 2 hours before, up to 2 hours before, and up to 2 hours after, to allow the general public who pay for this facility access to the public amenity. If those amendments are happy, if everyone's happy with that, then I'd be happy to vote to approve. Without that control, I think it's putting the community in a very difficult spot, because there's a lot of parking going on in local estates and on that road, which, as I've mentioned, is a dangerous road. So, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ridden. Turn your microphone off. Okay, Councillor Smith, before I come to you, because that was quite a detailed account, I will go back to the officer first of all to get some answers to them. Then may aid Councillor Springett and Councillor Toprinsky.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of the parking, that would sit outside of the red line of this application. However, I have considered the impacts of these facilities on parking. The main thing for me is that there's no current restriction to the number of people that could attend a game. So, for example, if 400 people wanted to turn up to a game tomorrow, they potentially could. So this is about facilities this is about improving facilities for existing users of the site, but it also does meet the FA requirement for their next promotion level should they attain that. And then the next one is that the buildings are not traditional built buildings. They are pretty much prefab in their form. The clubhouse itself is 2 shipping containers combined, so they would not have the same level of foundations. So if the use ceased, we could potentially apply a condition so that if the structures or buildings were not in use, they could be removed within a certain time period.
Sorry, just so that I'm clear, Councillor Reardon, is the concern about parking that there's just not enough space for all the spectators, and or is it that the football spectators parking space is reserved for the skateboarders, and I think you said another group?
Thank you, Rob. There isn't enough space when there's a first team game on. And obviously the guides use their guide hall is on this facility. And the junior players play on the outside of, there's 3 junior pitches at the present time. So they play there. So when you've got a match on where you're getting spectators attending, there isn't anywhere to park, and it stops people using the skate park, and subsequently people are parking on the Headcorn Road and in local estates. So it's a very similar thing to, as I mentioned earlier, with schools, is where people are actually parking legally, but it's causing a real nuisance to local residents. Now, how the transport scheme can be implemented, but I think it's very important at this stage, because if that isn't managed now, then we've just got a problem going ahead. Whereas we've got the opportunity to manage it now and support the football club. But I would like the 2 conditions: one, a transport scheme is provided prior to any work being carried out, and a fence, an open gate where the ambulance access is locked open for everyone to use the public amenity, because everyone pays for it. Whereas at the current time, the whole field is, in the last 4 years, it's either been locked off, bolted off, or closed off. So the public amenity is gone. So I think this is an opportunity to deal with these 2 problems, and then I think we're probably there.
So, Councillor Reardon, just, you said the parish owned the land. Yeah,
Correct.
so if the parish wanted to imply leave the gates open, it's their gates to leave open, isn't it?
Sorry?
If the parish own the land, I take it the parish on control of the gates as well, are they?
Yeah, it's how it's managed, but it's being closed off, and it is a public amenity.
I don't know. My concern is obviously we're implying a condition on someone who doesn't have control of said gates. If it's owned by the parish, it should be the parish that should actually keep the gates open, not the football club.
Yeah, I did want to avoid the argument by putting a planning condition in there, because if they want to get the football pavilion, which I'm minded to support, I think it's very important that everyone else still gets use of their public open space.
Okay, I've been, but I don't think that's reasonable on the applicant. I think that's something that the parish could enforce without involving the applicant. But I'll bring Councillor Mr. Jarman in.
Yeah, as the chairman said, we couldn't use a condition to control what a third party does, and I think this is quite a difficult one. I don't want to be obstructive either, Councillor Reardon. So that normally when there's a parking issue problem, however one wants to define it, for instance, a new school opens or there's an extension to a school, what normally happens is the Kent County Council Highways give us a view on whether or not they're likely to serve traffic regulation orders, because I think in planning we have to look at the harm caused by the parking problem. And like you said, I would have thought that there would be harm if spectators whoever are parking on the Headcorn Road. But the potential solution to that outside planning is to serve a traffic regulation order which stops people parking on that section of the Headcorn Road on, say, a weekend.
You okay there? Yeah, Councillor Ridden. Yeah, take it. Okay. I'll move to the Councillor Springett. Thank you.
Thank you. So the original application was for 50 spectators and they were getting 100. So this one's for 200 spectators. So the chances are we're going to get 300 or 400. There seems to be a lot of support for it. Even Councillor Reardon is saying, you know, I'm torn. So would it not be possible, a traffic, whatever you call it, plan might work, but could there not be a condition that when a big match is expected or a large attendance is expected, that the club arrange a shuttle bus system to and from the ground? Could we not require them to investigate the use of a shuttle bus system should a large attendance be expected?
Yeah, Sean can come back on the detail, but that would be a normal travel plan objective. Normally, for spectator sport, it would be trying to promote through the travel plan travel, but not in a car, a shuttle bus, or just encouraging people to walk to the ground and back from the ground.
Can I come back quickly? So I'll propose then that we have a condition that a travel plan is created for this application if it's approved. I'm just concerned that, yes, we can do traffic regulation orders, but we're creating the problem now. We've got a chance to stop the problem happening rather than creating it, and then further down the line we've got to find a solution. So I think it would be quite sensible to have a travel plan that considers the use of a shuttle bus if a large crowd is expected. And I'm sure they'll have a pretty good idea when they're expecting a large crowd. I just think it might be trying to preempt problems down the road. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Springett. Councillor Harwood.
Thank you, Chairman. One thing that should be quite easy is in terms of the biodiversity net gain, it talks about creating within the blue line rather than the red line a wildflower meadow or something similar. Wildflower meadows can act as sinks for wildlife because they're quite intensively maintained. They're more gardening than habitat creation. Therefore, I think that we need to stipulate that there needs to be a rotational cutting regime on the wildflower area. We've done this on other sites so that essentially part of the area is left uncut over winter, for example. Otherwise, reptiles, amphibians, the insects and so on just all get removed and raked up. So that was the simple one. The more difficult one is the Upper Midway IDB are talking about the surface water being discharged to one of the ditches in the area, which then flow into the SSSI River Belt. There is currently an extant application for a 3G pitch at the Jubilee Field. And as you're aware, one of the biggest, or perhaps the biggest cause of microplastic pollution is 3G pitches, particularly the rubber crumb. And the UK government is looking to make a decision in 2025 on deliberately putting plastics into the environment. And there's a big potential that as it is in the EU, we're going to see a ban on the plastic crumb issue. So I think what I'm saying is that if we move away from a soakaway system to a discharge of surface water into a watercourse, there's all sorts of implications in terms of pollution burden. So though it's not specifically for this, it is linked to it because the drainage that we utilise will also apply to the outstanding application for the new pitch. So I just want to flag to perhaps officers that they need to consider that surfacing issue and the drainage because the rules are tightening up imminently and you could end up buying a pitch that you can no longer pack with little black bits of rubber. So if we have got something moved with that small addition around having a rotational approach to the mowing, yeah, I'm happy to second if it's not already.
I'm happy to move that, as per the papers, but with the addition of the requirement for a travel plan to specifically look at a shuttle bus when it's cloud. With the addition of that, yes, I'm more than happy to do that.
I think we're talking about drainage. Come to a bit of an expert. Councillor Somerville.
Thank you. It's drainage, but foul drainage, and I know that can be conditioned for disposal, but I'm confused as to what the spectators do at the moment because this new clubhouse will have 2 toilets, but presumably there are toilet facilities already on the system. Are we adding to the system, or are they using those 2 properties at the front, which have also got licensed premises?
I understand that it's discharged into the public sewer.
Answer your question, Councillor Somerville. Councillor Cox.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My point's on page 54, item 8, which is around operating hours. So the clubhouse currently can operate 13 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm struggling to really think and understand why a clubhouse at this level, or even at a more senior level, needs to operate that number of hours, and if those hours are intentional, or whether they should be pulled in a little bit, particularly on Sunday nights, for example.
Just going back to what the applicant said, I think it's more so that the clubhouse could be used for children's playgroups, or serve food to the other groups, if I remember correctly. Councillor Tabrinsky, have you indicated now? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hear what people are saying about the traffic and the shuttle bus, but this is, to all intents and purposes, a local football club. I played rugby in a local club for years, and you cannot control who comes from where and how they arrive. And basically, everyone comes by car because they're coming from different locations all over the place. I do struggle to see where would you run a shuttle bus service from? Where, it's all very well saying, "No, we'll pick them up at the station or something," but how many people come by train? Probably not many. So I on that front, I think it might be a bit difficult for them to do it. I hear what you say. I mean, it's a good idea, but I'm not sure how practical it would be. And certainly I'm absolutely all in favour of supporting the club as much as possible. It's a successful club, and if I talk about the Headcorn Ward, we do not have enough sporting facilities there. We've got teenagers hanging around doing nothing, and well, actually they are doing something, but they're not doing anything that's very positive. And I would like to encourage the club as much as we possibly can. I hear all of the concerns about parking things, but and there does need to be a solution to that. What it is, I don't know, but I do believe there is. But I'm not sure a shuttle bus, is actually the thing to do. But I certainly would encourage the football club massively. It's great to have a successful club, as we saw with Maidstone when they got through the final. So yeah, that's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Mr. Jarman.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just very quickly, we certainly, as planning officers, would not be forcing the football club to run a shuttle bus. What we'd expect in the travel plan is what you just said, Councillor Trubinski, that I don't know where the football fans come from. if they don't come to Staples train station, then, as you said, it is absolutely pointless getting them to run a shuttle bus. But that's the kind of information we would expect in the travel plan. And the onus is very much on encouragement, as you said.
Okay, we've got a mover, we've got a seconder. Unless anyone else wishes to talk, I'm going to go to the vote. So it's as per the papers with the urgent update, with a detailed travel plan report to be produced before work starts.
Providing information on how spectators travel to the ground, with the onus on encouraging non-car traffic.
And yeah, and rotational cutting of the wildlife meadow with a section to be left fallow each year. Okay, you all clear on that? Okay, so all in favour? Okay, and that is passed, approved. Sorry. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on. We have appeals. Does anyone have any particular questions for Mr. Jarman about the appeals? Councillor Summerskill.
Purely being new to this, can you explain why one appeal says quashed and not dismissed?
Purely because it related to an enforcement notice. So that's the terminology for enforcement notices.
Mr. Jarman, do you want to go over any of that, any detail that you think we need to be aware of?
Yeah, on the whole, really good, particularly in relation to a site called Warren Lands, just outside Lenham. That's a long-standing enforcement concern, but it's good to see that the inspector has dismissed that appeal.
Yeah, I think from the report you can see that we actually having some quite success. Okay, unless anyone's got nothing else for Mr. Jarman? No? Okay, in that case, thank you for your patience tonight, and I draw the meeting to a close.